Hello everybody, Simon Lewis here from Members Only, and we're filming today as part of the Recruitment Supplier Showcase 2020. Absolutely impromptu session this, with the wonderful Rebecca Shannon, who reached out and said any chance we could have a little chat today about leadership, and of course it's a subject close to my heart, so I leapt at the opportunity. So we're going to be discussing really loosely subjects around being fit for purpose, and also be your own leadership, or be your own coach. Mm-hmm. So really loose and really informal. But Rebecca, give us an intro.
Fab. Thanks, Simon. Always good to join you for a bit of a chat over lunch. I'm Rebecca from Compliment Coaching. Some of the guys that are tuning in will have met me before or heard some of our conversations before. But basically, I work as a coach for recruitment leaders, business leaders, entrepreneurs, individuals who want to make a difference in the world, want to make an impact in the world. So that's kind of what I do day to day. And we were talking the other day about being your own best coach, and I sort of went away and thought about it, done a few chats about it before, and I read a great article that talked about being fit for purpose, which, if we think about getting fit in a physical sense, we'll go and get coaches for that. You know, if you think about top athletes, they'll have coaches that help them get fit, and all different types of coaches. And it just got me thinking about our conversation about what being fit for purpose in a leadership sense meant. So that's kind of where I got to with it. Okay, great.
So, leadership, I think what we've learned over the last 6 to 7 months, and when I say learn, it's been accentuated over the last 6 or 7 months, is how there are so many different forms and types of leadership. And it is in many regards very subjective, and you could delve into this, as I know you do, as part of your coaching in so many different ways. But I think right now it's more prevalent and prominent than it's ever been in terms of what it takes to be a leader, but also what do you do when you're leading yourself, because leadership's quite a lonely existence, isn't it? And particularly in recruitment, where we're obviously relating these sessions to, and I should imagine there are a lot of leaders who have just felt almost bereft of company, potentially bereft of people to speak with, and there is only so much you can just keep going on, isn't it? Just keep going, just keep doing the thing before you kind of wear yourself out. I know this is a subject really close to your heart, so I think in keeping with what we're trying to achieve throughout the course of this the supplier showcase is around what makes great leadership, but also, more importantly, what can we do as individuals to ensure that we are good leaders? And this is recreationally as well as commercially.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think my view on this, as you know, we've spoken many times, is that it's holistic. We're not leaders and then we go home and we do something else, right? That it's not compartmentalized. So whenever I talk about good leadership, it's leadership in every aspect of our life. And I think, you're right. What has accentuated over the last 6 months is how important it is that we look after ourselves as leaders, that we are sustainable leaders, because if we're leading, whatever we're leading, whether we're leading a team, a business, just our own lives, other people depend on us then. So, to be able to look after ourselves and be sustainable is really important. And then it comes to this idea, it brings in this idea of fit for purpose. As a leader, and what we've seen over the last 6 months in particular is that what is needed from us from a leadership perspective has changed, literally overnight in some cases, many cases, and then over a sustained period of time. And we're back now at the moment to feeling like what's coming next, and most of the conversations I've had with recruitment leaders and lots of the forums that I've been speaking to is around, as leaders, it's very lonely, and who do we go to? So one of the things I would say is about being your own best coach is, yes, how can we be our own best coach, but also do reach out and get support. As I say, top flight athletes, if we go back to our sporting analogy, have many coaches around them looking after different aspects of their health, of their fitness, of their agility, of their speed, of their diet, all these different things. And they go out and seek those and get that support there, to mean that when they show up to run the race or to play the game, or whatever it is that they're doing, they are fit for that game. And that's the other thing that I think's changed, that purpose. You know, if you're going to be a long distance runner, the kind of coaching that you will need, the kind of fitness you will need is very different to a sprinter, right? So how you get fit for that particular race is going to change. And I think that's the other thing. The race has changed a little bit for lots of people over the last few months, right? So one of the things about being your own best coach is identifying really specifically, what is the purpose? What are you trying to achieve right now? And therefore, then you relate it back to, okay, so how do I get fit for this, right? So at the moment, we're all sort of facing the unpredictability again of what's going to be happening over the winter. So we've got a winter where, you know, we are, what the purpose is, how do we sustain and keep our businesses going during the winter months, right? With all the uncertainty around that, but also the usual things, that is, there are shorter days. Everyone feels differently in the winter than they do in the summer, right? You know, that impacts us more than we realize a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm on site, I'm with the client today, and it's one of the first things we talked about was the fact that suddenly we're in winter. You know, the days are shorter, you know, it's darker, the weather's shit. Sorry, can I swear? Sorry, should have asked.
Of course you can. Think the audience, Rebecca, I'm sure it's fine.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'll carry on. And that was good swearing as well. Yeah, so that has a really big impact on us, right? So being the leader who's fit for the purpose for the next few months is, how do we sustain and keep our teams motivated? How do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them committed to what it is that we're doing? That starts with us. So how do we be our own best coach in that? So one of the things is so there was 4 simple steps I wanted to talk about, if that's all right.
Yeah,
I could talk about this for hours, as you know, but to keep it within the lunchtime slot, there were 4 steps. So the first one is, and this again, if you keep related to a sports person, you know, because that's somewhere where we're used to coaching being, you know, happening all the time. So whatever's your sport, think about, you know, a player or a sportsman, and kind of align it with that. Is you would spend time. So step 1 is you would spend time honestly assessing your own strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Now, the great thing about these steps is you can apply them to yourself, and then you can go and apply them to your leadership team, if you've got a leadership team, and then to your teams, and then to your business. So these are 4 steps that you can use in all of those scenarios. So what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? A sports person will always do that. They, you know, if you've got, there's the famous story about David Beckham, isn't there, about learning to take penalties. You know, it wasn't one of his natural strengths, believe it or not. So what he did was he identified it wasn't a strength, and then he went and learnt it, and he practiced it, and he practiced it, and he practiced it until he was really good at it. Until if he stepped up to take a penalty, the chances of him scoring were 80-90% rather than 20-30%, right? So it's thinking about it like that. So what are your strengths? What are you good at? What would you get better at? And to change something about yourself then is you've got to identify what is the problem and what are you going to do about it. Yeah. So but the first step is identifying it, assessing it, and understanding it. So and a good thing to do with this is ask other people, you know, ask your teams, ask your peers, ask within, you know, your membership group. Is if you were going to ask other people, get them to tell you what they think your top 3 strengths are. Get them to tell you what your weaknesses are, what your 3 weaknesses are. Get other people to relate back to you. Yeah. And then also the other one that I think is a really good one to ask is, what are your biggest fears? So this is again one of your, you know, because these will show up in your strengths and weaknesses and how willing you are to look at them. So what are your 3 top strengths? What are your 3 weaknesses? And what are your 3 fears? Yeah, and that's the first step. So get really clear on them, and you can see how you could use this with your team as well, right? Then once you know what you're good at and what you need to get better at, is then put it into context. So this is the purpose bit. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Yeah, and get really clear on that. Yeah. So what is it you want to improve? You know, what are your goals that you want to achieve in your business, in your own leadership, for your teams, whatever the context is, but get really clear on identifying what your goals are. The questions to ask here, or when you've set your goals, is get specific with them. You know, we know this old SMART idea of goal setting, right? Okay, it's really old fashioned, but actually it works. You know, it does need to be specific. You do need to be able to measure it. You need to be able to articulate what it is, etc. Right? Okay, realistic and time driven. Okay, and then notice how you frame those goals. And this is the bit, that the coaching bit. And if you were working with a coach, which I highly recommend, by the way, but if you were working with a coach, is they would ask you to do this, is how you frame it. So it's not I want to, it's I will. Yeah. So if you're setting your goals for, you know, yourself, it will be I will do this. You know, you and I have talked about this in terms of breaking bad habits as well. You know, how we frame that. It's really important psychologically to change it from something you want to do and something you will do. Yeah. So that's step 2. If I'm going too fast, Simon, or if there are questions that you have, please chip in.
No. I'll reserve them all for the end, Rebecca. I'm listening. I'm learning. But
you know,
yeah, I get it though. It's the framing. It's word association also, isn't it? And what the connotation of the word that you're using, and will, is obviously much more affirmative than would like to or could, or you know.
Absolutely, yeah. I will. And I use a technique in the coaching around visualization, which is we're already there. So if I'm talking to a client about what their goals are, we actually go there. And this again is sports people do this all the time. They're already, you know, they visualize themselves on the podium collecting the gold medal. That's where they start, right? And then they work back from that. So I will actually go with people, okay, if your goal is to, you know, to be set up your successful business or to increase your revenue, what will it feel like when you're there? Who will be around you? What will you be doing? You know, will you be out on a night out, hopefully with other people, you know, clinking champagne glasses or whatever it might be, and get them to actually really visualize and feel what it will be like to get there. And that's really powerful, as well as those associated words where you say I am, you know, it's not even just I will, it's I am, I'm already there, I've already done it. And that is really powerful to do that. And if anyone wants to explore visualization with me, let me know. So that's step 2. So we now know our strengths and weaknesses, and we've got really clear on them. We've shone a light on them. We know that we need to look at those. We've got really clear on our goals. We're already there. We know what it feels like. We're talking in really positive language around I will, I am. Then what we need to do is, as we start moving towards that, is record your progress. So, and this is where working with a coach is really good, but you can do this for yourself, is to be held accountable. Yeah. So it's checking in. You got your goals figured out. Is start recording how you're doing. So you can use journals for this. You can actually sort of write, you know, how you're getting on, which is a really powerful way of doing it. Again, it helps you bring you into the present of what you are doing. But if not, just get it written up somewhere. You know, again, it's quite old school, really. In recruitment, we've done this for years. What's on the board? What's our revenue targets, etc. But do this for yourself as well. Record it somewhere, and then commit to what change you're going to make towards it each day, each week, each hour if you want to, and record the progress you're making. Yeah, so you can visually see it. Yeah. I always think about, when I think about this, I think about, you know, you and I are about the same age. Blue Peter, when they used to do the you know, the charity things, and they'd have the big thermometer, wouldn't they? And each week you'd see it filling up. It's kind of like that, right? It's a really good way. You might be younger than me, Simon. It's a really good way of...
I know you're talking about, and there's a name they used to use for it as well, and I can't remember. It's like something, a meter.
Yes.
Whatever the word was before a meter, after they'd made something out with, you know, plastic bags and toilet rolls.
Exactly, yeah.
But I know what you mean. Yeah. So it's a constant reminder. Here's where we were last week. Now here's where we are, and it's a visual, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really see, and I think that's the problem with recruitment in ordinary times, inverted commas, because actually, you can see it. But right now, and this is about how do you measure success now, and what represents success. And we had a session the other week where it was about just asking different questions now, because we need to. Those questions around, well, how much sales have you done this week?
Yeah.
How many clients have you spoken to? How many candidates have you? They're different questions now, and that success measurement is entirely different, isn't it? So having that barometer, it wasn't a barometer, but I was nearly there with something to meter. It's really crucial.
Yeah, I mean, it's other things like, you know, great visualization is things like, you know, if I hit my goals, then I will go on a holiday to St. Lucia, right? Let's say it's a favorite place of mine. Is actually do, you know, you could do it like the thermometer, or you do it where you track, you know, on a map how far you've got towards that goal of being able to do it. And that's another way. It's whatever works for you. So whatever visualizations come up for you is then how do you track your progress again there? And like you say, what those measures of success might be are less traditional now, you know, but measuring them, acknowledging them, and seeing how near you're getting to them is as important as if they're pound signs, right? To keep us motivated. And to hold us accountable to what we're doing, and also to experiment then what's working, what's not. Okay, so I'm not getting near my target, so then it goes back to, okay, what am I doing well, what isn't working so well, and adjusting. Which comes back to step 4, which is exactly that, is assess your results. Now you can see where you are. Now I need to assess them and go, what's working, what's not working, and what are some different approaches I can try as well. Because one of the things, and again, I think this has been so apparent over the last few months, is we have to constantly be learning, unlearning, and relearning. So, and learning different approaches. So as you can see your progress, if you're not getting it along there as fast as you'd like, or as getting as far as you'd like, is okay, what can I do differently? And again, that goes back to step 1, which is what am I good at, what aren't I good at, and how can I do things differently? And then, you know, underlying all of those 4 steps is the most important thing about being your own best coach, is your mindset. Okay, is getting that is going to determine whether you're successful or not. It is always around mindset, and if you're working with a coach, that's what they're going to be really focusing on, is where is your mindset at. Things like, have you got a growth mindset, or have you got a closed mindset? Have you got an abundance mindset, which is there will always be opportunities? Or have you got a fixed or a scarcity mindset where it's fear-based? If I don't get this, there's nothing else, right? So really looking at your own mindset and getting clear again. Am I good at being open and looking at this from a growth and opportunity point of view, or do I tend to close things down and feel fearful and scared and like the scarcity? Being really honest about that, and then trying to find ways of you know, changing your mindset. Spend time with people who've got growth mindsets is a great way of adapting or adopting a growth mindset yourself. And not spending time with people who drain it or have a very negative or a closed mindset. So if you've got those people around you, you know, either you need to have a conversation with them, or actually, you know, step away and spend some time with some people like me and Simon who've got a great growth and abundance mindset. And get support. Right, that's the other thing that underlines this, is, you know, being your own coach is great, but get help. You know, get mentors, get coaches, set up some peer-to-peer coaching sessions where you help each other. Get some, I know you run lots of these, you know, some roundtable events, some mastermind events. Bring in that support, because with none of this we can do on our own, and it can be a very lonely place when you're leading a business, but actually it doesn't have to be if you go and find and invite in people to help you. And coming back to the mindset thing, I think, and this is you know, if you're going to take on coaching yourself, follow those steps, but also underneath that, understand that you are probably the person that's getting in your own way. So getting really honest about your own resistance, your own weaknesses and strengths, and going, do you know what, if I change this, if I make one little small change every day, I can get out of my own way and get the success I want. That's a great place to start.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for that. And I totally agree, you know. And I think spending time with the people that have got a growth mindset is and this is from personal experience. Having done that, it totally and utterly changed the way that I viewed things, and it opened up so much more than I thought. I'd always considered myself to have that sort of creative brain and that sort of, you know, that mindset. But there were times where I was thinking, maybe, you know, just I hadn't realised that the reason why I wasn't fulfilling some things I wanted to do is because I was not with the right people, thinking the right way. Now, if I so I suppose to give some people listening the real nugget of something I can do right now, because if I'm listening, I'm thinking, right, that's all great, but we're changing. The days that we live in now are changing every time we wake up, right?
Yep.
So the goal setting, where are you going to be in 3 years' time? I mean, I don't even think that's a question anymore, is it? And I couldn't even answer it when we weren't in this situation. But is that how do we do that? How do we you can't just adjust every single day, or else you won't ever achieve the goal. So how do we actually cement something that even in a turmoil, sort of hurricane type scenario, we can still achieve it?
Well, I think the first thing is, you said it there yourself, right? We've always lived in uncertain times, right? We've had this conversation many times, right? We just told ourselves a story. We made a story that made us believe we knew what was happening tomorrow. The truth of it is we didn't, right? And we all learned that in March, right? Because we all thought we knew what we were going to do for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then suddenly overnight it changed, right? So that's the first thing to recognize, is we make up these stories about the future. So if we can make up the stories about the future anyway, whatever goes on day to day, we can still do that, right? So yes, our goals setting might be more short term at the moment, right? And I think there is an acceptance that we may have to adjust them every day. And actually, when this whole idea of visioning, so going to where you want to be, right? Where you want to be, how it wants to feel and look around you, doesn't have to be set in stone in terms of a timeline. Okay, we will get there. I'm already there. I already know that this is going to happen. And then you come back from that to plan, okay, what is the next step I need to take to make that happen? And actually, I was just talking to my client about this. If, when we're trying to vision where we want to get to, we build in everything that could go wrong along the way, or every bit of resistance we could get along the way, we'll never actually paint the picture of where we want to get to. So my advice on this is still do that. Still sit down and spend some time thinking about, where do I want to get to? Forget what might happen along the way. Just where do I want to get to? Then work that back to, right, what's the next step I can take? And then you do have to build in a regular check-in of, okay, what's the terrain like at the moment? Okay, what do I need to adjust? What do I need to change? Which may be external factors, but maybe where you've realized, I've tried this approach and it hasn't worked. So what do I need to do differently? And if you think about, if you're working with a coach, same, going back to the sports analogy, right? You work with them regularly. You have regular points where you go, okay, what's happening in the world? What do I need to do? Again, think about the Olympics. People were planning for the Olympics. Sports people were planning for the Olympics years ago. Suddenly it's not there anymore. What do they do? Yeah. Right? They've adjusted. They've looked at their training plan and gone, okay, so what is next? What will I be working on? And they adjust it and review it all the time and experiment and change things. That's what we have to do. It's what we've always needed to do. It's just the last 6 months have kind of smacked us in the face and made it really obvious that's what we need to do. So we can still plan for our goals, but build in the regular check-ins and assessments, and then have a look around, what's going on, what do I need to change, what do I need to adapt.
Rebecca, thank you. We've run out of time.
We're out of time.
But do you know what? That's how quickly, how long? 20, 25 minutes? That's how quickly it goes, isn't it? It's just absolutely. So let's do this. You and I both like doing this. Let's summarise with 3 key words so that we can make sure this happens. So from today's session, 3 key words to underpin how we can look after ourselves better and make ourselves better leaders.
3 key words. Fit. Get fit. Right, we'll have that as one word. That's 2. Fit. Purpose. Be clear on what the purpose is. What are you trying to achieve? And then also, I think the other key word here is support. Find the right support, the right mindset around you, and the right support that you need. So if you're fit, you know what your purpose is, and you've got the support to do it. If you think about good sports people, again, that's what they've got. You will achieve what you want to achieve, and you'll be okay. You'll be okay in the process, which I think is the other thing that's really important. Yeah, fit, purpose, support.
Perfect. Rebecca, Shannon from Compliment Coaching. Been an absolute pleasure, as it always is, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
Thanks, Simon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.